So, it doesn't stop right now, does it? It's been a crazy 2 weeks in the Overwatch League where we've seen a massive bunch of changes for a load of different teams. But today, we return to the London Spitfire. Now, London Spitfire put up a video on their YouTube channel yesterday, and this is to announce a few things, and mainly to give an update on their direction for 2021, which is something that a lot of people have been wondering about. A lot of people wanted to know. So, recently we've seen them offload a massive amount of their players, so I believe 7 out of the 12 that they had. So, this is a major change for the Spitfire. We're expecting them to load off more as well. They also loaded off their coaching staff, Agape, Pavane, Skix, and the rest. And it's a big change for Hurricane, for London Spitfire. And we also got rumours from the esports observer and things like this that they were going to promote British Hurricane, and this was going to become a European Spitfire. For the first time ever, it's always been an all-Korean team and it's found much success, but also hasn't found much success in 2020. So we have an update now, and we're going to go through this, and it's a very interesting update. So this video centers around the current manager or the general manager of British Hurricane. Her name is Noukky, and she was a player in the scene and is also now a general manager for Hurricane. She's been at Hurricane for 2 years, through all of its success and all of its low points as well. And Hurricane is obviously experiencing unprecedented success in Europe right now. Unbeaten in 2020, Contender Season 1 champions, and currently unbeaten in every single month of Contenders this Season 2. So Hurricane is just dominant in Europe. Absolutely dominant. More dominant than any other team is in any other region right now. And this is incredibly interesting. And it's going to resonate with some people, it's going to worry some people, but let's go through it and let's talk about it. So, Noukky is becoming the manager of London Spitfire. She will be the general manager for London Spitfire in 2021 going forward. And she is going to create a brand new model in which London Spitfire and British Hurricane will operate. So British Hurricane, and she says this in a video on the London Spitfire channel, but she is very right. British Hurricane has a rich history of developing talent that precedes the Overwatch League. When you look at Fusions, yes, he's at Boston, but can we gloss over the fact that he's at Boston? He's still a good main tank, performed very well in the Overwatch World Cup. Funny Astro, at one of the best teams in the league. We see a massive amount of talent move up. Cruz, obviously, in the league as well. There's a lot of talent that's moved from the Hurricane to much higher places, and it's a testament to the Hurricane's team building and development that almost at the moment you could kind of call them maybe a European runaway in terms of the way in which they're building players and they're moving on to bigger and better things. It is quite substantial, the impact that Hurricane is having. Now, Cloud9 and Noukky seem to be doubling down on this idea. They have committed to British Hurricane sticking around for the 2021 seasons of Contenders. This is massive. This is a commitment from an OWL org to make sure that they are still in Tier 2. They are still supporting Tier 2. This is what we want to see. So many orgs that are in the Overwatch League have pulled out of Tier 2. There are only 2 remaining in the Western regions, Boston and London. That's it. London has seen a lot of success with British Hurricane. Boston with Uprising Academy, not so much success, but they are still around. They are still committing. It's a bit of a different story in Asia because we see more Chinese teams like Bilibili Gaming are affiliated with Hangzhou Spark and so on and so forth. And also we see Genji in Korea with Seoul Dynasty. But that's a bit of a different story. So they're doubling down on the support for British Hurricane. And this is super interesting. And what I can garner from this video is the fact that they want to bring British Hurricane and London Spitfire as close together as possible without literally merging the 2 teams. So they would act as a support base for each other. She's talked about how the coaches could interact with each other on a level where coaches from the Hurricane can help with coaching for the Spitfire and vice versa. incredibly interesting. Incredibly interesting. And this could give way to a partnership between an academy team and an OWL team that we haven't seen. We have not seen two teams at the different levels be so closely integrated with each other in a very long time, if ever. And if this is the way in which Noukky wants to proceed with how London Spitfire and British Hurricane operate, this could be incredibly interesting. Not just for Spitfire in the league, but also Hurricane and European contenders as a whole. It could be... It gives almost a sense of, not security, I think the security is the wrong word, but it's very interesting for the whole European contenders to have London's backing like this. This is Cloud9 and London saying, we are European, we are going to represent Europe, we are going to be almost a guiding light for Europe. We are going to be the team that says, hey, if you can reach Hurricane, you are one minute step away from London Spitfire. You are one minute step away from the very, very top of Overwatch. And it brings Spitfire much more relatable. It makes them much more relatable, but it also makes them much more reachable. Before, we've seen Hurricane and Spitfire, and they've been two completely different concepts. Hurricane being this European team with a lot of European talent, sometimes not doing very well, sometimes doing fantastically. Remember, they've won European contenders before. And then you have the Spitfire, this all-Korean roster, did really, really well in the Overwatch League. Then it didn't go so well, then they kind of offloaded it, rebuilt. But this is a level of transparency we also haven't seen from the Spitfire ever. Spitfire don't tend to be a massively transparent team, not gonna lie. But this seems to be, not coming home, but it feels like that. It feels like London and Cloud9 have seen this whole thing with perhaps they've looked at Paris and they've thought, well, that was the guiding light for Europe. Paris in their first season in 2019, they had a European roster. They were like, hey, look at us, we're the flag bearers for Europe. Look at our European talent. It didn't go all that well for them, did it? No, not really. But then they moved away from that. This year they've demonstrated a mixed roster with French and Korean talent. They've gone to all Korean coaching staff. And it could go further than that in the future for Paris. So they've kind of moved away from that European sort of centric idea. And that had a backlash from French fans. I remember it when they started bringing in Koreans. And it was not liked. This could, however, change. If those fans feel disenfranchised or disenchanted with the way in which Paris is going, then they may move over to London. And this is maybe what the Spitfire and Cloud9 are looking at. They are looking to be the anchor for Europe, the fan base team for Europe. If you love European talent, you would think of London Spitfire. This is what they want when they're talking about this. This is what Noukky is talking about. And it's an incredibly interesting concept. And what does this mean for the roster? She has admitted there's going to be a complete overhaul, just like there was last season, because it literally goes, yes, again. So we are expecting everyone to be offloaded at this point. There's no surprise there. She did say that they want to go for a mainly Western roster, but based on Europe. So this is unlikely to have a lot of American talent. It is probably going to have a lot of European talent with maybe a little bit of American influence, but it's not going to be a lot of Americans. So this is something, again, very interesting. And we don't know a roster. This is not a roster announcement. But from the way in which she was saying that they want to incorporate Hurricane and Spitfire so closely, they want to be flag bearers for Europe, talking about how Hurricane develops such good talent, we have to now assume that the plan for London is to promote British Hurricane to the extent that they can, providing every single British Hurricane player wants to be promoted. The only issue with that, obviously, we've covered in other videos, is Sparker not being old enough to play next year, and then bring in some other European talent alongside that. But something we can also garner from this is the fact that I expect it to be a fairly young and inexperienced roster. Why do I say this? The emphasis on developing. So I think I touched on it in the video back along about talking about Linksa leaving, and maybe Linksa would fill in that hit scan role for Sparker while Sparker was ineligible. I somehow doubt that now, because I don't see Linksa as being the development option that London Spitfire would want. If they're looking at developing players, they want to go for a young and up-and-coming hit scan. But there are a lot of opportunities for London. A lot of opportunities. There's Team Doge in America. They've got a British DPS player hybrid, and he could be someone who's trying out for London Spitfire in these coming weeks. So another thing she did say is, we don't expect to be a top 5 team. We don't expect to be challenging for the title next year. This is, I don't think I've ever heard a general manager or someone connected to an Overwatch League team say this, and it again demonstrates an unprecedented level of transparency that the London Spitfire are trying to achieve by the looks of it. And to be quite honest, I think it is pretty refreshing getting that sort of clarity, that sort of honesty. And it's just saying, guys, we're developing a roster. We understand this is frustrating for you, that you are seeing this massive roster change once again. You've got no consistency, but we want to develop a roster that you are proud of. As Europeans, we want to make you proud. And so we're going to give you European talent, and we're going to make sure we develop it. It is not going to be an easy journey. She said that herself. It is not going to be easy. It's going to take a while. And in this season, we are not going to be a great, fantastic team that is probably going to win the league or going to challenge to win the league. It is very, very unlikely. But we want to build. We want to be the team that Europe can be proud of. And this is possibly one of the biggest, if not the biggest, shifts that a team has ever done in Overwatch League history. Because this isn't just a shift, disguised shift from a Korean roster to a mixed roster or a European roster or whatever. Toronto did that a while back. They had a Korean roster and they moved over to a more mixed, more North American Western based roster. That's happened before. But this for Spitfire is not just a roster overhaul. This is an ethos change. This is not an overhaul of the Spitfire. This is an overhaul of their entire Overwatch esports operation run by Cloud9. So this is most likely the biggest change we will ever see a team make. And it will be a long process. A long drawn out process. But it is a very intriguing one. We are going to keep a very, very close eye on the London Spitfire during this off-season, because, boy, it's going to be interesting. We just have to wait now. Noukky said that she's going to do a bunch more podcasts and interviews and stuff like that to explain in more detail the way in which she wants to go with London Spitfire. This is very interesting. And we obviously wait on roster announcements and stuff like that, which may not come all that soon. But with the next announcement I'm expecting is for the release of JMac, Sanguinar, Glister, Banar, and Fuse. We will see if that happens. The only possible people I see staying are Banar and Fuse, but considering what Noukky has said, I don't expect them to be staying. And yeah, only time will tell with London Spitfire. But I do respect this incredible level of transparency. But I'm going to leave it here for this one. Yes, it's another talk about our transfers. It's crazy, dude. It's crazy. But I'm going to leave it here for this one. So thank you guys so much for this video. If you'd like to give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.